Yeah, so we do design our courses to be accessible to students who may not have had the same kind of um, access to, the time or the spaces to be able to do certain types of work. So, for example, going to National Art School, which was great that they sort of were very supportive and on board with doing that process, got people in a large art studio and gave them the drawing materials that they needed and the space and the guidance.
So I think taking them to Budj Min was good because in terms of like staying together at least for one night, it was like good experience for them and for them, I think, because in terms of like social bond and the friendship between them and supporting each other, I think it was like something that they learned, I think, from this subject as well.
Yeah, I think not just the one, also in Melbourne as well.
Yeah.
So taking them outside of Sydney and showing them, like I think the immersive experience of taking students away to site is just needed in an architecture school. Like one of the why? Because it's spending time on site and deeply learning how to understand site when you were there, the things that are tangible and visible and the things that are less tangible as well. That kind of knowledge feeds into a designer's abilities later to design well.
I mean, it's interesting because at the moment there's a real push to even eviscerate the lecture as an idea. So I think one thing we've been able to hold on to at the university generally in the architecture program is to maintain a kind of 6-hour studio day, face to face. And I think collectively we felt quite strongly about going to site. Well, a lot of other programs are not even going to class. That's the important point.
Yeah, when you say there's a movement, you mean like in other courses across the university, but yeah, it's really important in architecture that we keep that physical connection and understanding and learning from place.
And also the lecture that we had with Bianca on site.
That's true. It was, it's funny you talk about lectures going away.
And she was just talking about country, and we were there and we were able to hear like country.
Country is a mixture of separate and autonomous beings and a collaboration of interconnected living processes in flux.
While she was like talking about country, I think it was like really tangible for students to understand.
Yeah, that's one of the best things I learned from this course, really, is this idea that you need to learn about country on country, not in this sort of studio environment or removed or on a computer screen, but there's so many things that you learn by being in a place.
Yeah.
So definitely that came strongly out of the studio.
Yeah.
And Bianca's lecturing the students, like you said, on the place where she was designing, they were designing.
Is, in thinking about, well, how does this actually work materially? What are we going to do in terms of both a material approach, and how can we find a kind of common language, and then I think I'm comfortable with working in situations where I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I think that's part of being an artist, and this is another one of those situations. I guess I was also thinking about like what an art approach to drawing might bring to architecture, an architecture design process as well. While our definitions of what experimental drawing might differ, there might be some common ground to be found when we're thinking about more intangible aspects of site and thinking about because like for me I'm always interested in the material layer of things that sometimes we might mistakenly label immaterial. And so when I'm talking about intangible, I'm still thinking about how does that connect to our senses? You know, how do the more intangible aspects of sight connect to our senses? And you know, if we think about what that word means, intangible is connected to touch, and you know, so there's things that we can touch directly, and there's things like movements of the air, you know, which is what I've been concerned with in my own work, that touch us and that impress on us, but only to the extent that we're aware of that process happening. You know, like it often is happening below our consciousness. So I think, you know, when we're thinking about tangible and intangible, you know, sometimes what we're describing are things that we're very conscious of or things that we're less conscious of.